Disruptions are really based in technology, and everybody's just trying to figure out what is the way we do this effectively. It doesn't seem like anybody has quite the answer just yet, but there's a few models that are coming out that people are trying and just seeing what sticks.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate, everyone. And today we have Shain from Keller Williams Suburban Realty. He's the new team leader there. Say hi, Shain.
Hello.
So today we are going to be talking about this advent of new brokerages versus the, what should I call it, the warhorses. The Keller Williams, the Coldwells, the Weikerts, and then this new league, the Compass, the Redfin, things like that. So let's start off with, Shain, how you differentiate the two.
Sure. So it was really well said. There's the tried and true, right? There's the quote unquote traditional brokerages, your Coldwell Bankers, your Remaxes, and your KWs. And then there's the new kids on the block. And of that group, the two that really stand out at the forefront are Compass and Redfin. There's iBuyers that are mixed into that. There's smaller scale versions of these online-based brokerages / discount brokerages that are coming in that are technology heavy, that are trying to be disruptors in the industry. And we're seeing a lot of these businesses falter with the shift in the market. We're seeing a lot of these businesses realize that there's some cracks in their systems, and they're figuring out how to navigate against those. So the real differentiation is the tried and true models and these new exploratory models that are starting to pop up.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you mean by disruptors? What was the before, and what are they trying to disrupt, or were trying to disrupt?
Sure. Well, if you think about real estate's an 100-year plus business in real estate as we know it. And in that time period, there's been some shifts in the models. There's been some other disruptors that have come in, KW being one of them. But for the most part, the commission bases, the commission splits, how agents are paid, and how agents are treated has remained largely the same, more or less. When you take a company, let's use Redfin as an example, you take a company like Redfin where their whole model is that agents are actually salaried employees. With that, they have quotas they need to fill and sales volumes that they need to hit. But they can also leverage the technology of their web-based platform to get leads. And clients can also use their website to request home tours, to select specific agents. It's all on one interface. And their goal is to put finding an agent at the palm of your hand. And there's some pros and cons that come with this model, but that's where they largely rely on being a disruptor. If you view Compass is also a largely technology-based company that they use for their luxury marketing and how they reach out to agents and clients as well. So the disruptions are really based in technology, and everybody's just trying to figure out what is the way we do this effectively. It doesn't seem like anybody has quite the answer just yet, but there's a few models that are coming out that people are trying and just seeing what sticks.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think was the Achilles heel for many of these disruptors? And suddenly you have the old vanguard,
right,
who seem to be still chugging along, and these new disruptors made a killing for a while. So what was the Achilles heel? Why are they suddenly having a problem?
Yeah. Look, with the exception of really Compass, most of these firms are such a small drop in the bucket, right? They haven't been able to make the impact they've wanted. They have market share that's less than 1%. And their Achilles heel really lies into how these companies are funded and how they're structured. A large portion of them, number one, haven't known a downturn or market shift. They were all brought up in really successful, hyper-focused markets where, everything is golden and beautiful and rainbows and unicorns. And now that things are shifting, they don't really have things in place on how to react accordingly. The other part of it goes back to their financing models. And when you're backed by venture capital, there is a pressure that you need to constantly perform. You need to constantly double your profits, double your revenues every single year. And that may not be possible when there's a shift. So that's why we're seeing these large layoffs that have impacted Compass and Redfin and Open Door and Better and all these web-based brokerages, because they're finding that their bottom line is suffering. Compass, I just think, came out with a report. They lost something like $200 million. Last year, I think they lost upwards of $800 million. Same thing with Redfin. Open Door lost $1 billion last year. So, and for them, because they're not, the other part of it is they're not franchise based, right? That's the end all be all, right? Most of them are owned by a corporate entity, and the costs and the expenses are shared throughout the company. With franchise models, they show a little bit more resilience to these because each office is independently owned and operated, and you're able to shift at a local level a lot quicker and a lot easier. So that's why you've seen KW and Remax and these other franchise models hold their resilience a little bit longer, and not have the outside pressures of venture capital pushing them to make profits or to increase year over year, but rather focus in a purposeful and constructive way of how to actually improve their agents, right? And that's the issues that we're seeing.
So what would you say are some things that the disruptors brought in that the the warhorses are now trying to use?
It's really technology. I think everybody's been talking about it for a long time. KW is one of the first to talk about it. We were talking about it 10 years ago, and we've made a lot of strides in it. I think out of all the vanguards, out of all the war horses, whatever you want to call them, we're the leader in technology right now. It's only us, Compass, and Redfin have proprietary technology that we use on a daily basis throughout all of our offices in regards to our CRM and marketing tools. Everybody else is relying on third-party technology or just starting to come up with a model of how to integrate their own technology. So it's really a space race of who has the best tech these days, who can do things the best, the cheapest, and with the most possible outreach available. And it's really exacerbated the emphasis that real estate and technology are actually, they go together hand in hand. And Zillow really was the first to do it with their web-based platform that anybody can look at houses anywhere in the country. So it really comes down to the tech. That's where it's all going towards.
For a consumer who's coming in, a buyer, a seller, how do they decide?
It's a great question. There's so much noise out there. Everybody knows a realtor. Everybody has a family member who does real estate, and I'm going to say does real estate. So really how you decide is it's an interview process like anything else. You want to go through trial and error. You want to figure out who can best represent your needs, whether you're buying or selling. I do firmly believe that nothing replaces a local agent. When you look at, these online brokerages that are volume-based, quota-based, they deal with so many customers, with so many clients. There's so much noise that you're kind of another number in the process. And because they have quotas, really, they need to make sure that you actually buy or sell something. Otherwise, their own livelihoods, their own employment may be in jeopardy. So there's a pressure there. When you work with a local expert, a master of an area, they can speak to schools, they can speak to local trends, they can speak to, who your properties may appeal to if you're selling, and they may actually have more contacts in those communities than anybody else will. So I think that's really the big differentiating factor is you want a master of an area, not a jack of all trades who's running up and down the state, going wherever their managers are telling them to go to fill their quotas, but rather you need somebody who's in tune with the local market.
Yeah, I use the example of how I used to be a teacher, and people will go to like greatschools.com or niche or whatever. And I always explain to them, I'm like, hey, I taught in this school district. And when I was in the school district, my middle school was like the very top one. And by the time I left, of the three, it was struggling. But if you look at the ratings, you would never know that. You need to know what's happening on the ground. And these companies simply don't know. They don't.
Right. They have
based
data,
in,
they have figures.
Yeah, they're based not in the area. You need someone local.
Right. And it really does make a difference. And you can feel that difference immediately when you work with an agent who knows what they're doing and can speak to an area.
Also, like, they will know. I was explaining to someone who was interested in Westfield. And I was like, oh, well, your family lives in Westfield. So you know that on Thursday nights in the summer, they have their jazz nights. And they're like, wait,
right.
What?
Yeah. Look, that's a level of service you want to expect from your agent. Somebody who's in tune with what's happening in the area. And one thing that I also forgot to mention is that these agents, because of how their pay structures work out, I mentioned the pressure, but also understanding that their incomes, their livelihoods are going to be much less this year compared to agents in the existing models, because they're not paid commissions like normal agents are. They're paid bonuses. And the expectation is that you're going to do just the same amount of work as the market is constricting, and you're going to just make less money.
Yeah.
So they're feeling pressure from all sides, and you don't want to work with anybody who's desperate.
Yeah. Disruptors, here's what I do want to say, is that the disruptors always become, a lot of times, either the leaders or they integrate into the echelon of the people who are leading the pack. They don't always stay there. Right. You have, my favorite example is Sears and Kmart and things like that. They were huge disruptors. Sears was the Amazon of its time, and it didn't stay innovative. And Amazon came along. Amazon's just the Sears of our time.
Right.
For heaven's sake, Sears, you could buy a house. You could build a house from Sears. Yeah. They sent you a house.
Yep. It's the Blockbuster versus Netflix conversation too. It's the people who innovate. It can go one of two ways, but they have to constantly innovate. It's funny that you said that too, because Robert Refkin, the CEO of Compass, just when he was talking about their earnings report last week, stated that they're debating going to a franchise model, right, to offset their costs. I think you're going to see a lot of these companies, if they don't close out right, or their models don't change significantly, those same venture capital backers are going to suggest mergers or buyouts from other larger companies. I can think of a few that KW would benefit from acquiring if the opportunity presents itself, merging the tech. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but I think that's a nail on the head, right? These companies are either going to innovate and grow, or they're simply not, or they're going to get bought out by somebody else who's going to better utilize them. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Sounds good. Well, I think that really covers everything that we were going to talk about for today. So thank you, Shain, for coming on today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Have a great day.